Join us for a two-part interview with Ori Geva, an Israeli mathematician turned entrepreneur and founder of EarlySign, a healthcare business that uses machine learning to predict diseases such as cancer in vulnerable individuals more accurately and quickly than traditional methods. A true example of a world changer. Join us.
And we started off working in a garage. It was really a garage. We rented a garage somewhere in one of the neighborhoods and started working there, talking to physicians, trying to get samples of data, trying to see if we could apply some of the methods that we've seen working in other industries to that.
Okay, let's get into this. In each and every single one of us roams millions of microorganisms, each playing their own specific role and contributing to our overall health. Under certain circumstances, however, these microorganisms give rise to disease or illness, jeopardizing our longevity. A study published by the University of Michigan Medical School found there are roughly 10,000 diseases afflicting humans. In just the United States alone, 25 million Americans suffer from rare undiagnosed conditions. And it doesn't help that, as we get older, our chances of harboring a disease or contracting an illness begin to climb. And this is where our guest Ori Geva comes in. Ori's roots began in the field of mathematics, working with databases and their accompanying large volumes of data. An unexpected collaboration with his brother-in-law, a successful day trader whose use of algorithms inspired the two to use their complementary skills to collaborate in the fight to provide more accurate and early disease diagnosis. Now, healthcare as a domain is one that's been information-driven since its inception, and that volume of information continues to grow. Unfortunately, humans' brains just don't have the capacity and power to interpret this information in its entirety, and so it's given rise to an exciting opportunity. Using artificial intelligence and machine learning, Ori was able to develop a program that could sift through large quantities of data to identify patterns into valuable and actionable insights that can be used by healthcare professionals to take swift intervention. Ori will share EarlySign's approach to detecting disease and illness, the impact it can have in the world, the kinds of patients EarlySign helps, and the advantages machine learning and artificial intelligence can provide all of us. Now, over to Ori. I would like to welcome the remarkable Ori Geva, who is one of the co-founders and CEO of a company called EarlySign, located just outside of Tel Aviv, Israel. I just want to say thank you so much for joining us and telling us your story.
Thank you. Nice talking to you, Robert. Happy that it's nice. It's going to be a nice and interesting conversation.
It will be, I'm sure. So, Ori, if we can just start, give us a layperson's explanation of what EarlySign, your business EarlySign, does, and its potential impact on the world.
So, we harness our different mathematical and machine learning approaches to help stakeholders go upstream and intervene earlier with individuals that might be at risk for life-threatening conditions or serious deterioration in chronic diseases. And the way we do this is we try to connect the dots between the many pieces of information that reside in our medical records. And by comparing what we've seen that happens with people that had these conditions or deteriorations to people that didn't, we're able to pick up signals and patterns that are very difficult for us as humans to identify. And that's really the essence behind machine learning. And using that, we can stratify, or we can associate a probability of someone belonging to a potentially higher risk group. And then if there is a good intervention, we can help stakeholders and individuals to take better care of these people.
So can you give us an example of the kind of patient that would normally benefit by having EarlySign involved in their analysis?
Sure. Let me give you an example that probably our first product that we put on the market. This product is helping to identify individuals that are eligible for colorectal cancer screening. And for some reason, there are many reasons why people do not do their screening. We're able to flag those individuals in that population that are at higher risk of harboring colorectal cancer and maybe some other lower GI disorders. We're doing this by analyzing the results of the complete blood counts, that tests that these people have done along the recent years. And we pick probably the top 1 or 2 or 3% of these individuals and provide that information to their providers, or it could be their caregivers. And these caregivers would have then a discussion with these individuals and try to convince them to eventually do their screening. And we've seen this work in practice. So for one, the population that we identify is indeed enriched, unfortunately, with these cancer cases. However, at times, I mean, this allows earlier detection, and that could really save lives. I'll give another example, and that might be, for example, in a population of people that have diabetes. So we know that diabetes itself is not the problem. What happens is that end organs are affected. So it could be heart problems. It could be problems related to the eyes. It could be renal impairments. So we're able, for example, to look within the population of people that have diabetes type 2 and identify a subpopulation that is enriched with people that have a higher potential for fast deterioration to renal impairments. And today there are good interventions. I mean, there are medications, there are lifestyle changes. It's just a matter of who to nudge. We can't afford to go and intervene the same way to the whole population. And when we can focus our resources on those with a higher risk, that could provide a better yield. Our models are not saying to ignore those that are not flagged. We're just saying continue working with them according to the guidelines. We just identify a subpopulation where extra effort should be put.
So, just out of curiosity, compared to conventional methods of assessing a patient, how much of an advantage do they gain by using EarlySign as part of the diagnostic process?
So at times, and that really depends on the condition, we can improve the sensitivity, and that means the level of enrichment that we can provide. It could be by folds like 10-fold, 20-fold, and at times it could be increasing by 50%, and that is significant. That is extremely significant. Just to give an example, if we look at family history as a risk factor for colorectal cancer, it is usually thought that this is anyway between 2 to 6 times increased risk lifetime. Now, if we look at the top 1% of the people that we flag using our algorithms, this could be 50 times more risk current, not lifetime. So
wow,
this is a very this is an extreme example, but even if you you look at other conditions, I mean, there is merit to that. And there are some conditions where we don't find signal in data. Not everything is, it's not working necessarily for all the conditions.
No, fair enough. So, I mean, that's remarkable, and one of the obviously, yet another example of how machine learning is improving the quality of life or experience that we have. So, can you tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to being in this kind of business?
Yeah. So I studied math, and through the whole career that I had, I've been doing a lot of work around very large data sets, whether it's was problems related to search, to knowledge management, to knowledge representation, um, and in different industries. And I think through mid 90s, I've been involved in different projects that apply machine learning. At the time, we didn't call it machine learning, it was neural nets. It was a big hype during, I think it's the 70s about neural networks, and then it declined. But I saw that this worked well. It was bringing value, and I've seen this working in telecommunications. I've seen this working in financials. We definitely see this working on consumer sites. And then probably the last adventure that I was before I went into digital health, I was involved in a very interesting initiative about marketing in telecom. In telecom, so but when you think about the purpose there, it was really about selling more stuff to people that don't necessarily need it, and and my brother-in-law was working with another guy who was real genius in the and he did algorithmic trading. He was tremendously talented and very, very successful. And at some point, he came also to the thought that he wants to do something else, something for the greater good. I mean, if I may use cliches. So rather than increasing, the fortune of his family, do something that would also, be affecting other people's lives. So, and I think the thought was there how to use algorithms and machine learning, because that's what he saw that was really successful in the financial markets. And then maybe rather than predicting where assets are going, we could predict where people are going. And that was around 2009. I think machine learning and healthcare were very, very separate things. It wasn't such a buzz, or AI. And we started off working in a garage. It was really a garage. We rented a garage somewhere in one of the neighborhoods, and started working there, talking to physicians, trying to get samples of data, trying to see if we could apply some of the methods that we've seen working in other industries to that. And that evolved. And around 2012, we kind of landed upon a very nice collaboration and relationship with one of the health systems in Israel. And they put a challenge for us and said, if you could help us with this, this, and this would be great, because they saw something and they published on a phenomena that they saw was working on a population level. But they said, could you guys help us to identify individual people with the risk? And that's where we started to see some models that were working. They had a large data set, and that's how we started that.
It's it's interesting to me is that a lot of the entrepreneurs that I speak to often have a direct connection to the subject matter in some way, shape, or form. They feel a connection to the subject. Now, it sounds like you believed in the potential of the technology, and you just said, well, where could we create the greatest impact? But was there a personal connection to the subject? Like, had you ever experienced, for instance, in your own family, a situation in which you thought, these kinds of tools, you could have seen these tools in practice, creating the positive outcomes that you do right now?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I do. I encounter these situations as well when entrepreneurs have their very kind of private and personal story. No, I mean, luckily, I didn't have some trauma that drove me to that. I think, the personal connection was that I felt that I was in a point in time where I wanted to create a successful business. I mean, that's obvious, but I wanted it to be with a cause, with something that, when my kids or my grandchildren are going to ask me, I mean, okay, Grandpa, what have you done to to help us in this kind of small planet? And so I'd be proud and say, at least, either I did or I tried, or, we were very successful, but that just to have something that you can identify with. And that was very compelling for me to put effort
It's
there.
that word cause is one that definitely comes up a lot in conversations with entrepreneurs, is that, they feel like it isn't sufficient to just make money. They want it to have some meaning, to even have greater meaning than the money might add up to one day.
It
Now,
helps. It
uh,
helps because, as an entrepreneur, you go through rough patches. I mean, it's ups and downs, and you know we're all trying to work hard. I mean, no matter where it is, but
yeah,
when there's the extra cause, I mean, it helps you to pull through a little more,
yeah,
maybe.
for sure. You know what I love about your story is the fact that you actually launched in a garage, which is such a cliche story in Silicon Valley. Did you actually have to start in a garage, or did you do that just so that we had this great story point?
It was very convenient. It was close by to where we lived. Uh, was the good price. We didn't want to work from home. I mean, now everybody works from home, but we wanted to have a place for our own, and we didn't want to go to an office and get the long-term commitment. So that was a very convenient thing, and it turns out well with the story as well.
Now, one of the things when I was researching your company, the first thing that really struck me was the fact that you were talking about using one of the most advanced forms of technology out there and applying it to what strikes me as, there is a caveat to my point here. It strikes me that it's a very traditions-based business. Sorry. It's a very traditions-based profession, the medical profession. Now, obviously, there's tons of technology that's used in the medical profession. But I was curious, what was it like trying to bring this kind of new way of analyzing patient data to the medical profession?
Uh, it was very hard then. It's still hard today. I think we talk more about AI and machine learning than we actually see it working in practice. There's a lot of conversation about it, but at the time it was almost obscene because when you go for these empiric approaches, I mean, what physicians were taught for many years at med school is that when you want to do a research, you have to have an assumption, and then you try to prove or refute that assumption using a very concise, very small set of data that everything has to be completely explained. And they were saying, you guys, I mean, you're doing a fishing expedition, and that's kind of a bad word in research for that times. But that's really the power of machine learning. So it was really hard for them to, I think, understand these concepts and accept that this is science, or at least science, as they've been taught what science on one hand, because you'd see these very small studies on, 400 patients, and then they're saying this marker is going to distinguish between group A and group B, and it has to have a statistical significance of that and that. And then they ask their home statistician to do some very simple regression and prove their thesis. And the thesis that we can have as humans related to numbers. I mean, we can't create a thesis that would involve 10 numbers. I mean, it's too hard for us, let alone 100. And that's where exactly the power of the computer comes in. I think over the last years, I mean, there's been a lot of progress in terms of accepting it and understanding it, and also learning better the risks and the downsides. There's no magic there. I mean, and usually, I mean, it's very hard based on existing data to find facts that are really unknown to science. I mean, that's a little bit of what they expected. They say, well, can you find something that we never knew that is there? And we say, no, we can just add up the numbers much better than than you do, and find the fine signals. So it's still hard, I think, but because of such a buzz around AI and machine learning, they're more open to it, and I see this is happening. I talked about their home statistician. You see that some of the researchers actually replace their home statisticians today with machine learning and data scientists, so they can apply more advanced approaches to research.
I hope you enjoyed this first part of our interview with Ori Geva, founder of EarlySign. Click on the second part of our interview to hear Ori's thoughts on becoming an entrepreneur, the advantages and disadvantages of starting a company out of Israel, and more. Now, back to Ori.